Hi everyone, this is Katya from cal9designs.blogspot.com. I have a fabulous find that I wanted to share with you. And first of all, the address that you're seeing on Kristina's envelope here is not her personal address, it is her business one. But here is the product I used to create perfect spacing with those lines. These are vinyl sheets that I picked up from Amazon, and they are a godsend. So let me show you how I used these to create the perfect envelope addressing. I took one of the sheets and cut it down so that it would fit into a standard A2 size envelope. And here I am taking a black Sharpie, and what I'm doing is just drawing lines on the vinyl that will allow me to get the spacing from left to right on the front of the envelope on the outside. And the spacing I'm using is approximately about a half an inch, those two blocks, and then I'm putting another line with like a smaller spacing in between, so that serves as the spacing. And I created 4 boxes so that I could have name, address, and if they live in an apartment, you can have a space for the apartment, and then you can have the city, state, zip, and then the zip code could also be down on the very last line as well. So what I like about this is instead of having to use lines and drawing them on your envelope, you actually what I'll wind up doing is cutting these rectangles out of the vinyl. They're super easy. I used a craft knife to cut these, and when I was done, I basically placed the grid lines directly onto the top of the envelope using the envelope as my guide to make sure that it was spaced evenly. And what I like about this is that you can have perfectly spaced envelopes with the address on the outside, and I also created one that will go on the inside. So the one I'm using here is the one that goes on the inside. Sorry, I'm kind of backtracking here. And then I rounded the corner edges here so that it would fit perfectly in the envelope, but the sharp edges of that vinyl would not tear the paper that I'm using. And I realize this only works for for vellum envelopes, but how perfect that you can actually create beautifully spaced envelope addressing, because you can see right through the envelope and basically just right inside of the boxes. And I will show an example of how I did that. And then here is the one that I used where I told you I would cut out those blocks there, leaving the spaces in between. So here's an example. You can place it right down. There's the second one that you can use for the vinyl and just leave the blocks there. You don't need to cut them out. But you can use the grid marks on the vinyl that has those grid marks on there to space it perfectly on your envelope. And then without having to draw a bunch of lines, you only need to write in the space. Now, if you have problems with that, you can actually just put tape on the outside of the envelope and, move the piece of washi tape or the tape to hold the stencil in place as you move forward, or you can just simply lift up the envelope and put it directly on the back. And so this is an example where you could lift up the envelope, put it on the back, and then start with your lettering. And then if it helps you to place a ruler guide so that you can keep your lowercase letters perfectly straight, you can certainly do that as well too. So that's an example where I'll show you that you can do that as well too. So you can see right up above where it shows my name, Katya Callaline, and then of course the address that's listed there is totally fictional. You can use those grid lines to space your letters apart. So if you want to do, printed, you can certainly do that. But there's an example of what I did, and you can see that the spacing just turned out perfectly. And then here's one where there's printed examples. So you can certainly practice your penmanship there, and that's definitely what I did as well too. So here's an example where I take the vinyl stencil, I should say the vinyl sheet, and this is where I actually started practicing writing Kristina Werner's address down in here using a different style. And this is where I'm writing it on the envelope in pencil. Then I'll go over it again with a pen and then do a little bit of calligraphy. So I mix up the style a little bit here. So here's an example where I'm actually printing Kristina's name at the top of the envelope, and then on this line I'm actually writing in a little bit of cursive with a little bit of a calligraphy style on the street address. And you'll see towards the end that I actually write the number of the apartment or number that's related to her business address on one line, and since it's left justified, there's a lot of blank space, which I wind up covering up at the end by sort of putting a squiggly line and putting a leaf type thing pointing with an arrow to the actual box number. So you'll see that towards the end, but how perfect is this where you can actually write different things, and if you don't like it or you want to redo the style, when you're using pencil, you obviously have many chances to go over that again. And you'll see towards the end, once I use a pen to go over all my pencil marks, I erase them and I have a smudge, like I said, but that's certainly easily rectified if you just use the pen directly to the paper here. So here is an example of the whole thing, and I think it turned out great. You can see that those grid lines help you place everything perfectly. And then I decided to take this 2.0 millimeter fine line pen and go over everything. In hindsight, I probably would have just used my calligraphy pen and taken it directly to the envelope, but in this case I was just practicing for the first time and wanted to make sure that I got this just right to be able to show you how easy it is to practice your fonts and your writing and all that sort of thing. So here's the example of where I erased it, and you can see towards the bottom there that the ink got smudged, and this is when I decided to use that thicker pen here, the calligraphy pen, and go over everything. And it's nice you'll be able to try different styles. You can certainly look at fonts on the internet and figure out a style that works best for you. And if you start off with pencil, it's perfect because then if you don't like it, you can certainly erase and then redo the entire thing. And those grid lines are going to help you keep your spacing and everything perfectly spaced apart. So I couldn't wait to show you this find. I really liked it. Here's an example of the final printed thing envelope, and then this is, you'll see towards the end I show you a picture where I figured that it was a little too left justified with that one piece hanging there off to the left, so I decided to embellish and put a little squiggly line. These are the templates I'm using, and you can certainly use them for other things. But here's an example where I put the squiggly line next to that box number, and here is a final look at the envelope. I hope this has helped everyone. If you do something similar, let me know. I'd be excited to see what you guys use. Thanks for watching, and feel free to leave me a comment, and have a great day. Ciao for now.